Hello, and welcome to the MMA Mic Drop Podcast. This is episode number 6. My name is Jade Bunky, and I am joined by the one and only Milo McGregor. In this episode, we are going to break down everything that's about to go down at UFC 296. But before we begin, I want to take a moment to thank all of you for watching our show. You have made us the fastest growing MMA podcast in the world. So thank you so much. Please continue to like, share our videos, and also add some comments. We'd like to know what your picks are. Now, let's get right into it because this fight card is absolutely stacked. It has a little bit of everything for just about everybody. You have title fights, you have rising stars, you have some big-time veterans, you have some wild personalities. This fight card is going to be absolutely nuts. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Milo. If you were to grade this fight card in both in terms of its quality and also in terms of your level of excitement, what would it be?
I think I would give it an A- for both.
A-. Okay. Yeah, this is an exciting one. As for myself, I'd give it an A+ for both. I mean, it is the first fight of the night is between Randy Brown and Muslim Salikov. And that's Randy Brown is a fringe top 15 fighter. That's your first fight, not in the main card, in the prelims. 2 title fights. You have the person who I think is the best welterweight in the division fighting. And no, that person is not fighting for the title. That is Shavkat Rakhmonov. And we're going to see him on the main card. And there's so much more. So let's get right into it. Let's give our picks and predictions. And first up, I mean, we have Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington. This is an interesting matchup. Now, there's been a lot of talk that this might not be the appropriate matchup to make. A lot of people were calling for Bilal Muhammad. I would love to see Shavkat in this place, but this is a competitively appropriate matchup. If we look at Leon Edwards, he has such a good all-around game. He is the author of the head kick heard around the world against Usman. In his second fight, he neutralized his takedown, neutralized Usman's wrestling. And that's important because in Covington, we got a wrestler. We got a pressure wrestler. This guy's incredibly athletic. He's beat some top guys. The problem for me, though, is that he's been out for a while. He's 35. Does that still translate? Where is he at now? He's 2-2 in his last 4 fights. So is that somebody you want to see in a title fight right now? Maybe not. But in terms of a matchup, it's an interesting matchup. We're going to talk about Covington's personality in a minute, his persona that he's created. Is that good? Is that bad? My answer might surprise you. I know some people love him, some people hate him. And we're going to talk about that in a moment. But first, I'm going to give my pick. This is an interesting matchup, and I think Leon Edwards is going to win. Give me Leon Edwards by decision. Milo, what's your take?
I'm going to go Colby Covington by Sean Strickland walkdown. He's going to walk him down the whole fight.
Okay.
And just beat him up.
So
by decision.
By decision.
Yep.
By decision. Wow. Okay, you're going with the Sean Strickland method. Just move forward. And it's interesting because Covington does move forward. And, he has that relentless cardio. And I am questioning, what's his cardio like after a year and a half off at age 35? I'm not sure, but this is what we're going to find out. And this is one of the things that that makes this fight so interesting. Now, we get into his loud personality. Now, let me ask you, do you like his personality or do you dislike it?
I mean, I like it, but I think it's a little bit forced because he wasn't like that. Like, I feel like not that long ago. I feel like he was like somebody in the UFC, just another body, but he really put his persona out there, and he's a really good fighter. So
I think, going to your point, his lack of authenticity hurts him. Yes, he's been able to raise his profile, but he hasn't been able to raise his profile enough. He's become a star, but he's not a megastar. He's, when you look at some of the fighters with interesting brand personalities, Nate Diaz, that's authentic. That's who he is. Even somebody that's, a little more out there, let's say like Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor has one of the best lines ever. It was when he beat, I think it was Aldo, when he beat Aldo, and he said, "I'd like to take a moment to apologize to absolutely no one." I mean, that was absolutely hilarious. Everything Covington does is so forced, and he comes across as this nerdy guy that, yes, can fight, but just missed an opportunity to build the right brand, where it gets some people excited to see him fight and it gets other people that want to tune in to watch him lose. It also creates indifference among another segment of the population. And that's a problem. You don't create indifference by, creating a persona. I mean, if you want a persona, you can watch WWE. But with that said, he's a good fighter. And I think we have a couple other people in this fight card who has some forced personalities. And we're going to get into that in a moment. But moving on to the next fight, I mean, and I think this is the best fight of the entire card, Pantoja versus Brandon Royval. Pantoja, he just won the title from Brandon Moreno. I thought that was a fight that could go either way. I mean, many people thought that. I actually thought Brandon Moreno won. And at the time, I wanted to see a rematch. And I usually don't like rematches. But in this case, I wanted to make an exception because the fight was so close. But if you're going to throw in Brandon Royval on it, this is a fight I want to watch. I'm going to give my prediction in a moment. Milo, what are your thoughts on this fight?
I think this is going to be a super good fight. I think it's going to go to the ground, and I think Alex is going to win.
And he fought him before, and he did. He was able to sub Royval. And it's interesting. I mean, Pantoja's an elite level grappler. He's so good everywhere. He has power on his feet. He's, an incredible athlete. And then Royval is just a wild man. He's so exciting. He's so fun. He's got a lot of subs on his record. He can do just about everything. And I'm excited about this. Now, he lost his first matchup against Pantoja. And I do think Pantoja is the better all-around fighter. But sometimes the better fighter doesn't always win. And that's what I think is going to happen in this fight. I'm going to go with Brandon Royval. I think he's going to do something crazy. I think he's going to catch Pantoja in the third round. And it's a fight where I was going back and forth. My head was telling me to pick Pantoja. My heart was telling me to pick Royval. I'm going with the latter. I'm expecting and I'm hoping for something fun and wild. And I think we're going to get it no matter what. This fight is absolutely nuts. It can be finished. And there's so many ways in which this fight can be finished. It's absolutely insane. Moving on, we have Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Stephen Thompson. Milo, talk to me about this fight.
Yeah, I think this is the fight of the night. I've been watching some Shavkat highlights, and this guy has GOAT potential. He's really good. And he doesn't even seem human. He's like a robot. He looks like a robot too.
Yeah. Go ahead. And he's in the run. I'm sorry. He's for best hat in MMA. So, but go ahead.
Oh yeah. But Stephen Thompson, he's like such a nice guy. I don't want to see him lose, but I think it's not going to be a very close fight.
So, what's your prediction?
Go, Shavkat.
What round and how?
Third round TKO by punch to the face.
Punch to the face. All right, there you go. Very specific. So yeah, I absolutely love Shavkat. I think he is the best fighter in the welterweight division. I don't think there's anybody that can beat him, and I think he will be. I think he'll be the champ by the end of the year, or the end of next year, and at the end of 2024. He is good everywhere. He has 100% finish rate. So not only is he undefeated, he finishes everybody. And his last finish was against Jeff Neal. And we saw for the first time that he was really tested. And so he showed a level of toughness that we didn't know he had. We also we were able to learn that he was able to go into deep waters. He has all the makings of a champ. And he's a tough matchup for Stephen Thompson. Now, Stephen Thompson is 40 years old, but he's coming off a win against another good striker in Kevin Holland. Stephen Thompson, you're right. He is one of the nicest guys in the entire sport. You don't want to see him lose. And he's such a fun fighter to watch, too. He has such a fun style. I mean, he's one of the best kickboxers in MMA history. I mean, he is among the elite of the elite strikers to ever do it in the UFC. And what's surprising is at 40, he's still able to win fights, by using that superior level of not only athleticism, but also just striking acumen. It's absolutely insane. But with that said, Shavkat is a different animal. And given that Thompson, though he's still elite, has faded a little bit in recent fights compared to where he was in his prime. I'm taking Shavkat, and I'm taking him by second round submission. All right, moving on. We have Tony Ferguson versus Paddy Pimblett. Milo, I know you probably have a lot to say about this fight, so let's get started. What are your thoughts?
I think this fight is a lose-lose for Paddy. Even though I like Paddy a lot, if he wins, it's not going to be good for him because everybody likes Tony, and if he loses, it's going to be probably even worse for him. But I don't know. I want to see Tony win, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think Paddy by, I don't know, second round knockout.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting. Everybody does love Tony Ferguson. I mean, I believe he won 12 in a row at some time, and he does have, I think, the coolest nickname of the entire sport, El Cucuy. And we're gonna, at the end of this podcast, or excuse me, at the end of this, after we conclude our breakdowns, we're gonna Milo's gonna tell us who has the coolest and who has the lamest nicknames on this card. And I'm sure El Cucuy might be at the top because that is cool, because he was the boogeyman of the division. He's the guy nobody wanted to fight. He kept coming forward. He was an absolute wild man. He can take a beating and then deliver a bigger beating. Unfortunately, he has, I believe, 6 losses in a row. And up until, I believe, Nate Diaz, and, he was fighting the elite of the elite. I mean, it started with Justin Gaethje. And even in the Michael Chandler fight, he showed some brilliance at time in that I thought he won the first round against Michael Chandler, and then he got blasted with that kick to the face. And at age 39, I just think he's a little too far past his prime. I mean, I absolutely love Tony Ferguson. He's one of my favorite fighters. And when we talked about, earlier we mentioned, the brand authenticity, I think that's one of the reasons why so many people love him. Not only is he a great fighter, he is exactly who he is. He's incredibly authentic. And, some people might say he's a little crazy, but hey, he's true to himself. So, hey, we're okay with that. Now, what's interesting, we move over to Paddy Pimblett. I love Paddy Pimblett too. I think he's a fun fighter. I think he's incredibly flexible. He's got some good submission wins on the regional scene. I think at his age, just given the discrepancy in age, it's going to be way too much. For Paddy Pimblett. It's going to be way too much for Tony Ferguson. Give me Paddy Pimblett by second round submission. Depending on how he does in his interview after he wins this fight, it's going to go a long way in terms of how people view him. Because coming into the Gordon fight, he was a fan favorite. But after the fight, he wasn't. And it wasn't because he lost. It was because his response to the Joe Rogan question was forced. It was a fight that many people thought that many people thought he lost. It was a tough fight. And he came out and right away said, it wasn't that close. It wasn't that tough. Well, that's not really genuine. And he had this kind of genuine, likable personality that was a little wild that people can get wrapped behind. And I think that rubbed people the wrong way, because if you noticed, there was some boos when they were reading the decision because some people thought Gordon won. There were more boos after he gave that response. So, and it goes back to your point, how he handles this is a big deal because it's a lose-lose situation. Tony Ferguson is a legend, and it's if he beats Tony Ferguson, people are going to say, okay, well, he's so far past his prime, it didn't really prove anything. If he loses, well, you were never that good to begin with. It is a really tough place for Paddy Pimblett. So we do want him to say something outrageous, because that seems to be part of who he is. But, try to be a little more real in the post-fight interview. Next up, we have Vicente Luque versus Ian Garry. Now, this is another good fight. Ian Garry's a rising star, and he's been taking a lot of heat recently. I'm not going to comment on his personal life. That's his business. But I will say, we talked about things that are forced. No one is forcing things more than Ian Garry. No, I don't think he has narcissistic personality disorder. Instead, I think he just has a terrible personal brand strategy. Kind of like not as bad as, well, maybe it's probably worse than Colby Covington, because there's everything he does. He comes across as just somebody extremely unlikable. And a lot of other fighters don't like him. And he is a good fighter. I don't think he's a great fighter. And I do think he handles Luque. Luque is going to come forward. Garry, a lot, it is a really good striker, a lot of straight shots, is a good fighter. And I do think he's top 5 bound. I don't think he's championship level, a championship level fighter. I think he will get exposed at some point, but I don't think this is the fight. I think he beats Luque. I think he beats him by a decision, but he's one of those guys that would probably have greater fanfare if he was just genuine. He's trying to be Conor McGregor, and he is not Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor was funny. He was interesting. And Garry is none of those. He talks over Neil Magny when he's trying to speak. Come on. Being loud is not always good. Being a good talking trash is not always good. You want to be good at it. So what you do is in a press conference, you wait for the other person to say something, and then you use your wit to respond. Milo, what are your thoughts?
I think Vicente by decision, for sure.
Really? Why?
I want to see Ian lose now after what's been going on. I just find it super cringy and weird. Like you can't get away with that and not get knocked out.
Yeah, and that's a thing, and some people might say, hey, well, it's cringe. That's what he wants because now you're paying attention to him. There's smarter ways to grow your brand, and that's definitely not the smart way. Next up, we have Josh Emmett versus Bryce Mitchell. Now, this was supposed to be a matchup between Emmett and Giga Chikadze. Now, Giga is out, Bryce Mitchell is in, and I mean, what a replacement! This is an incredible. This is a great fight, and I believe, is this even on the main card? No, I believe this is.
No, it's prelims.
That is absolutely amazing. This is a great prelim fight. Josh Emmett, I mean, he was right there in the title picture. He's a little old now, and that's the problem. He still has some mean ground and pound. He has some, sharp elbows. He has, an all-around game, but you do not want to be on the bottom of this guy, maybe even at this age. Now you move over to Bryce Mitchell, who is an exceptionally good grappler. He's really good at controlling positions. And I think given the discrepancy in age, similar to the Paddy Pimblett, Tony Ferguson fight, I think you're going to have the younger guy completely control the older guy here. And that's what I expect is going to happen. Give me Mitchell by decision. What are your thoughts?
I think this is going to be a pretty close fight. It's going to go back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're going to actually tie.
You calling a draw?
Yeah.
So to have a draw, to have a draw, you're probably going to get one guy to have a 10-8 round. So somebody's going to, catch lightning in a bottle, strike hard for one round, and then maybe gas out, or the other guy's going to simply step up his game. What do you think? How do you think that's going to break? How do you think that's going to go down?
I think Josh is going to come out kind of hard, and then we could do really destroy the first round and then just slow down a lot.
Yeah, and it's interesting because that's the problem, when you age, it's hard to maintain that gas tank through multiple rounds, right? You can, come in hard, in the beginning, but it's going to be hard to maintain. So that's an interesting pick. Milo has called this a draw. I think it's Bryce Mitchell by decision, but we will see. Moving on, we have Aldana versus Rosa. Aldana, so she lost to Amanda Nunes, and obviously there's no shame in losing to the greatest female fighter to ever live, but to do so in the fashion she did was problematic. It looked like the moment was too big for her. She was gun shy. She was not throwing anything back at Nunes. And the question is, what effect is that going to have on her now, more than a year later, right? And she's also 35. So there's a couple of ways to take it. Is she so upset and has so much regret on what she didn't do, she's going to come out blazing? Or has it discouraged her to the point where she exhibits something similar in this fight? I think it might be somewhere in between. And this is a good fight against Rosa. And I'm a little torn on this pick, but I am going to go with Aldana by decision. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to go with you. I'm going to go Aldana by decision.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Any insights into that, or is it just a gut feeling at this point?
Gut feeling.
Gut feeling. All right. Next up, Cody Garbrandt versus Brian Kelleher. I think this is a really interesting matchup as well. It's a competitively appropriate matchup, although I would have liked to see Garbrandt against an up-and-comer to use his name value. That could use Garbrandt's name value to catapult himself higher into the public mind and also closer to the rankings. With that said, I think this is a fun fight. It's an interesting matchup, and I think it can go back and forth. I think it can go in either way, but give me Garbrandt by decision. What do you think?
I think I'm going to go Garbrandt by knockout.
What round?
He's good. First.
Wow. All right. So you say he's coming out right, going hard right away. All right. Next up, Casey O'Neill versus Ariane Lipski. Now, here's what's interesting. If you asked me about this a year ago, I would say Casey O'Neill absolutely destroys her. Lipski has looked really good in her last 2 fights. And her last fight against Melissa Gatto is a quality win. Melissa Gatto is good. I actually picked Gatto in that fight. I probably shouldn't mention that I picked a fight incorrectly when we weren't even broadcasting it yet, but I did. But anyways, I think Melissa Gatto is a really good fighter, but I think Lipski has made some big improvements. Now, the question is, what about O'Neill? She's coming off a loss, but it was to a high-level opponent. With that said, I think she's young enough and skilled enough to make some substantial adjustments, and that's what I think happens in this fight. Give me O'Neill by decision.
Yeah, I'm going to go with O'Neill by decision.
All right, moving on. And again, this is a testament to how stacked this fight card is. Alonzo Menifield versus Dustin Jacoby. I think this is a fun matchup. Menifield, heavy hands. He can knock you out at any given time. I think he has all finishes except for one, if I remember correctly. And then Justin Jacoby, he's a really good boxer. He's a good kickboxer. And what's interesting, where Menifield has this potential, they're both around the same age. They're both, I believe they're 36. And what's interesting is Menifield fights in spurts, and if he catches you, he can knock you out. But he has so many lapses, and I still can't get over a fight he had against Vince St. Preux, which was back in 2020, and it was a washed up fighter against which he was fighting, and he couldn't really pull the trigger. I think Dustin Jacoby is a good enough fighter that he's going to pick him apart from distance. He's going to bounce in and out. He's got a good stand-up game. As I mentioned, he's a kickboxer. He's an exceptional kickboxer. He can get caught, but I think Jacoby is going to outpoint him. I think he's going to have more volume, and I think he's going to be able to withstand the onslaught when Menifield decides to activate. Give me Jacoby by decision. What's your take?
I'm going to go Alonzo by second round knockout. I think he's going to catch him.
He's going to catch him. He may very well.
Yeah.
He's got that power. He just touches you once, you can go down. So, yeah, that's an interesting pick. All right, moving on. We have Tager Ulanbekov versus Cody Durden. I mean, this is another really, really good fight. I think Durden is better on the ground, and he showed some remarkable he showed some remarkable toughness against Paddy in his last fight. I mean, it was a fight where he looked like he was going to get subbed. He showed some grit. He showed something that a lot of fighters don't have. But Ulanbekov, I think he's a better striker. He has an all-around game. I was on the fence with this one. I really don't know. My gut wants to say Durden. My mind wants to go with Ulanbekov, and this time I'm going to go with my mind. Give me Ulanbekov by decision.
Yeah, I'm going to go with you. I think it's going to go to decision either way.
Well, which
I'm going to go Ulanbekov.
You're going to Ulanbekov. Okay, yeah. And this is a good fight. Next up, Andre Fili versus Lucas Almeida. I think this is a good fight as well. Again, Almeida's more of a kickboxer, where Fili is, a solid bet with an all-around game. I think this is a good fight, but give me Feely by decision. What are your thoughts?
I'm gonna go Lucas by decision.
Awesome. Okay, awesome. Next up, Martin Buday versus Shamil Gaziev, if I pronounced his name correctly. So I'm not sure, so I'm just calling him Shamil. Now, when I think about this fight, I don't know how Martin Buday is in the rankings. He beat, I believe, and I'm just going to look at this. I believe it was Parisian. He beat Parisian and Jake Collier, and that's how he got in the rankings. When I think about this fight, it makes me think of a passage I've read in the Odyssey, in which Odysseus is coming home from the Trojan War, and he finds himself on an island, and he goes into a cave, and there's a giant Cyclops, Polyphemus, who lives there, and he eats a couple of Odysseus's men, and Odysseus eventually gives him some wine, and he asks him what his name is, and he says, "My name is Nobody." And so Odysseus, and his men, they poke him, they blind the Cyclops when he passed out, and the Cyclops goes out and he starts screaming to other people on the island, "Somebody hurt me, somebody injured me." And to which they replied, Who is it? And he yelled, nobody hurt me." And so they said, "Okay, well, I guess you're fine." And it's that name, that word nobody, which jumps out at me, because who has Martin Buday fought? Nobody. Who has Shamil fought? Nobody. So who's going to win? I have no idea. That's a long-winded way to say I don't know what's going to go down. Buday is big. He's 6'4", I believe he's 6'4", he's 265, and he has to cut a lot of weight just to make weight. He has this big barrel chest. He's a massive dude. He moves forward. He throws decent volume, but he's slow. He's plodding. Shamil, I've watched him on the Contender Series, and I don't think he was fighting a very high-level guy. He dropped him with the first punch. He jumped on him, but then he got his position reversed, which was a little alarming, but then he reversed it back, and he ended up subbing him. So again, I don't know how good either guy how good either guy actually is, because both of whom have fought nobody. With that said, I'm going to go with somebody I know a little more about. I'm going to go with Buday by a decision. Now, it'll be interesting. Shamil has a lot of knockouts. He might just come out and starch him right away. I don't know. I'm going with Buday by decision. What are your thoughts?
I'm going to go Shamil by knockout.
Moving on, the opener is Randy Brown versus Muslim Salikov. And this is a testament to how good this fight card is once again. This is not an opening level fight card. This is actually, this could be the opener for the main event, not the prelims. Randy Brown is good. He's got some long arms. He's got a reach advantage. He's a really good striker. But speaking of strikers, so is Salikov. The problem is Solikov's age. I believe he's 38 or he's 39, and I am going to glance down and just take a look at that. He's 39. He's at that age where you really start to drop off. And Randy Brown, his most recent loss was to JDM, and no shame in that, because I think JDM is a legit contender in the welterweight division. And with that said, I'm going to go with Randy Brown and give me third round TKO. What are your thoughts?
I'm going to go with Muslim by decision.
There you have it. Those are our picks, but we're not done yet. We're going to have a couple more segments. We're going to do Kicking It with Milo. We're going to do Kook of the Week. But before that, Milo, can you tell me what nicknames on this fight card are the coolest and what are the lamest?
For sure, Tony Ferguson is El Kuke. That's El Kuke. That's by far the coolest name of the whole UFC.
Yeah, I agree.
And then for the worst, probably Alexandre Pantoja, the cannibal. That's pretty lame.
That is super lame.
Not very good.
Yeah, and it's interesting. If and I'll give three. So I think the coolest one, no doubt, El Kukui, the best nickname in the UFC. Number two, I give it to Bryce Mitchell, Thug Nasty. I think that's just kind of funny and kind of interesting. And number three, I like Brandon Royval, Raw Dog. There's just something cool and catchy about that, which I think is kind of cool. If I look at the ones that are the lamest, the Cannibal is up there, but I'm putting that the third lamest. I mean, God, Wonder Boy, he's such a nice guy, but a 40-year-old man should not be called Wonder Boy. Same thing with Ian Garry, the future. That's pretty lame. I think who's that fighter? I think it's Macy Barber. It's like the future as well. It's not really that original, and pretty soon the future is going to become the present, then it will become the past, and therefore, kind of lame. There is. What do you think of this name? Do you know Andre Philly's nickname? His nickname is Touchy. So Andre,
that's a 10 out of 10 name.
Huh?
I think that's the best name now. Touchy.
I think that's hilarious. Andre Touchy Philly. So there we go. Tony Ferguson, El Kukui got bumped to second place. All right. So next up, we are going to do Kicking It with Milo. And this is a section in which we learn a little bit more about Milo. Milo, did you already have your contest, the U.S. Primes?
Nope. It's in it's this week.
Awesome.
Weekend.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, well, good luck on that. And for those of you who don't know, this is where all the best young surfers in the United States congregate to find out who is really, the top surfer in a particular age division. So good luck to Milo. We did talk about it last time, so we're not going to go to it now. But Milo, I know you do more boxing than jiu-jitsu. You started in jiu-jitsu and you do more boxing now. Is that correct?
Yeah.
What's the coolest sub you've ever pulled on somebody?
In boxing?
No, I'm.
You don't sub people in boxing.
No, I know.
Oh.
Yeah, I wanted to tell our listeners about your overall.
Oh yeah.
Back now going.
Yeah.
Back, what's your best sub in jiu-jitsu?
I remember I did like a Superman.
Did you really?
And then got on top of the guy. It's like where you you put your foot up and they throw him over. And then I armbarred him right after, in transition. I remember.
Yeah, your dad when you were younger used to send me clips of you just schooling other kids, and it wasn't a technique. It was like just aggression and athleticism. So you ended up fine tuning your technique a bit.
Yeah, I worked on it because I wasn't very good at jiu-jitsu. I just threw him around.
Yeah. Well, speaking of jiu-jitsu, your sister Penny got pretty good, and she was like an armbar specialist, right?
She'd beat me up.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Had she subbed you? Had she made you tap?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, dude, she's scary.
Yeah. So your younger sister is an absolute beast. So
yeah,
to Penny, she is awesome. Now going over to our final segment, who's our kook of the week?
I think I'm gonna give it to my dog.
Your dog? That's messed up.
I know. She was ringing the bell. She rings the bell to tell us to open the door, and she was ringing it while we were doing this podcast. So that was pretty kooky of her.
Wow. I cannot give an animal the kook of the week. I am going to give it to Ian Garry just for trying to be somebody he's not. Stop trying so hard. Be authentic. It will actually be better for you in the long run. But with that said, overall, this is an absolutely stacked fight card. I can't wait to watch it. It's from the first fight all the way to the last fight. There's so much intrigue. There's some big personalities. It's going to be a lot of fun. Do you have a last word before we go?
Drop the mic.
We're out.